tape right now because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
Everybody, have special guest with us. Patrick Korelchi is the co-host of the weekly audio documentary series Red Pilled America, which he and his wife Adriana Cortez have produced since 2018. I've been on that show. They recently launched their show's first video documentary called Rescue Ruse: How Sound of Freedom Conned Christians. It reveals the shocking truth behind the surprise box office smash Sound of Freedom and its alleged hero, Tim Ballard. Those are big, that's fighting words there. So, well, here it is. Here's what you tweeted out. Breaking RPA's first video documentary, early access. So here, I want to just I'll play the trailer, okay, Patrick? Let's play that. Perfect. And we'll come back and talk about it.
The box office smash Sound of Freedom portrayed her as a monster that sold children into sex slavery. They called her character Katie, but the hero of the film made sure the world knew her real name.
Her name is Kelly Suarez. Kelly Suarez, a real person, right? Kelly was Miss Cartagena, famous in town, and she recruited kids to her modeling agency. But she was selling them, 12-year-olds.
Kelly Johanna Suarez was branded the kind of supervillain few could even imagine existed, a ruthless businesswoman whose product was child sex slaves. And they branded her that before a global audience.
En el caso de Kelly, que es la persona real.
También es un personaje real. Una mujer.
Muy real, muy.
Kelly became despised on an international scale. But what the filmmakers didn't tell the public is that she was never convicted of child sex trafficking. She'd eventually sue the filmmakers for destroying her life. And the Christian team behind the movie now claimed that their true story was really just a work of fiction. Now Kelly Johanna Suarez speaks out for the first time since the movie's release.
Por eso digo que este momento lo estuve esperando por 10 años.
And she has a message for the world.
Que Tim Ballard es un fraude.
So that's today. Today is July 25th. So Red Pill. So you released that video, that documentary today. Where is it released at?
Today. It's on redpilledamerica.com, and it's also on our Twitter account.
Okay, so why not YouTube?
It's on YouTube as well. It's on YouTube. It's on Rumble. It's everywhere. It's on all the social medias. We also have an audio version out because we have an audio podcast, so it's on all audio platforms as well too.
So no, I did not see the Sound of Freedom movie, but I remember it was the biggest deal going. And it became like a Christian thing and a right-wing thing. And now, so tell me what the story is behind Sound of Freedom and how is it wrong?
Yeah, it is. I can't exaggerate what a big deal it was within the conservative media. I mean, it was huge. Every big name was covering it. Elon Musk was tweeting it out. I mean, I think Trump was in on like a premiere of it. Every major conservative and Christian figure was on it. And the reason being is that this man, Tim Ballard, purports to save child sex slaves. That is his thing. He's been doing it since, I guess, professionally since October of 2014. I take that back. Since 2014 or so. But before that, he worked for the Department of Homeland Security and the child trafficking child internet crimes, something like that. And he worked there for a number of years. I want to say around a decade or so. And he had this novel idea that he wanted to privatize saving child sex slaves. So he went around, he raised some money and does this raid in Colombia. Turns out he says something like, he saved 55 something people. Children, actual child slaves, he says, like that he had proven that they were slaves and that they had been abused and that they have catalogs, they have ways to know that these people are child slaves. So he goes around, trying to pitch a show. He has a TV show that he puts out on it called The Abolitionists. Eventually they make a movie, 2018. The movie sits on the shelf for about 4 years or so, and they kind of insinuate that Disney, who ended up getting the film's rights after a merger or after a purchase of another company. They claimed that they were shelving it because they were trying to protect Hollywood pedophiles, was what they suggested. The movie finally comes out, major hit. And we looked at it and we're like, we were excited. We're like, oh, this is kind of cool and kind of an independent film blowing up. Let's do maybe a film review on it, or we've done like makings of the movie before. We did one for Mel Gibson's movie. So we thought, let's do that. We go and we check out the film. And for a living, I write scripts for true stories. And I'm watching this thing, and this is based on a true story. And I'm like, this cannot be a true story. I could see right through this. At the very end, the pitch that kind of raised my spidey senses the most is that they basically said that you could stop child sex slavery by buying tickets to their movie. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't sound right. So we start doing a deep dive into this thing, and we start uncovering untruth after untruth. At the end of the day, with this film, what we ended up finding is this major Colombian raid that he did that became the plot of the movie. There wasn't a single child sex slave saved. We got our hands on the Colombian court documents, went through them all, went through depositions, went through various kind of court arguments and evidence and what have you. There was no child sex slaves saved. None of the people had been trafficked before that day. Some of them were being paid to be there, like almost like they were a cast in a reality TV show. And so we're like, this guy makes Jussie Smollett look like a truth teller. Huh. He's just one of the. As we were digging into this thing, I started looking at this. I'm not a homicide detective, but I watch a lot of Law and Order, which probably makes me a homicide detective. I started getting that feeling that a homicide detective would get when they start to realize that they're on the case of a serial killer. And I'm not saying this man is a serial killer, but I'm saying that he's a unicorn. He has fooled an entire niche, which is the Christian community, which is a huge Christian community, with these bogus, and at least every story that we've looked into that he's promoted have been bogus. And it's the shocking thing about it, Jimmy, is the lies that he says are so easily verifiable because all you got to do is go to court documents. You go in and you look and compare what he says happened to the actual court documents. This isn't conjecture. This isn't hearsay. I mean, you're looking at court documents. In some cases, he filed the reports and you're comparing his reports to what he's actually saying in the public about saving children, and they're a complete contradiction to each other.
Now,
so we decided we got to do a documentary on this thing.
Now, I watch a lot of the cooking channels, so I consider myself a top chef. And so he didn't expect. So what you're saying is that he was working at the Department of Homeland Security. He was like, "Hey, this would be. I could privatize this, make a lot of money, make a movie out of it, and it would all be fake." He didn't first. So there's two questions. The first question is, he didn't think anybody was going to fact check him. Do you think?
Well, this is, I think that the man is one of the most, I'm almost impressed by him. I shouldn't say almost. I am impressed by him, by his ability and his charisma to convince people. It's one of those topics that people don't want to delve into. So they're kind of like, okay, we got somebody over there doing that. Let's just kind of throw some money at this thing. I don't want to hear about child sex slaves. I don't want to hear about, what happens to these people. Let's just kind of let this guy deal with it. And he kind of is taking advantage of this human kind of behavior of just kind of not questioning somebody that's going after child sex slaves. I'm going to give you a perfect example. When we started questioning his stuff, he has this moment, this dog tag. This dog tag thing is the thing that launched his company. And we pulled up the court documents on it, and we proved that it didn't happen, that the court documents clearly show that he didn't interview the kid, didn't have the kind of interactions that he said that he had. The dog tag would have been in evidence, would have been part of in these reports, and it wasn't in anything. So we're looking at that, and I'm like, how can this guy get away with something like this. And I'm coming to the conclusion that people just don't want to question this kind of work. And so I go out there and I start questioning things, and I talk to PragerU, who produced a documentary on him, and who I've also produced a documentary on. And I approached them as kind of a friendly, like, hey, we're doing this story. We did an 8-part series on this. And I said, I want you to know the documentary that you did, he said some things that are provably false in your documentary. And so I kind of want to get a comment from you. The CEO of the company, who I interviewed, I spent a month of my life producing a documentary on them, basically suggested that we are protecting pedophiles. And so that is what people go up against when they question him on these kinds of things. Is this accusation that you're potentially a pedophile if you are questioning anything that they're doing.
Well, Patrick, why are you protecting pedophiles?
The fascinating thing is anybody that knows our story, we launched our show because we called out this guy getting in bed with other people's kids. My daughter was at this really elite, prestigious private school in Hollywood, had all the studio heads there, had Van Jones had his kid there. I'd see him on campus all the time, all the celebs and what have you. Caught this guy getting in bed with other people's kids, called him out, became this 5-year battle at the school. We ended up telling our first story of the show based on that. So this is not something that I don't take these kinds of things lightly. I've done a 2-part series on a show where my mother was, sexually assaulted. So we take these things very, very seriously. Yet the conservatives and in particular the Christian, these kind of Christian influencers who promoted him like no other, and I'm talking major names, they will not cover this story now because all of their hands are dirty. And the mainstream media won't cover it because they all did glowing stories on this guy who doesn't want to do a story of some Superman that's saving child sex slaves. CBS did this glowing piece on him, ABC, MSNBC. And so it's just been one of these kinds of frustrating things. And so this woman that we interviewed, her name is Kelly Johanna Suarez, she was effectively framed because she was cast as this part. She was going to this party trying to meet a rich American, and they framed her as basically a child sex slave. There's no evidence of her being a child sex slave. She's still been dealing with this now for 10 years in a Colombian court.
You mean a child sex slave trafficker?
Trafficker. Sorry. Yes. There's no evidence of her being a trafficker. But they had someone else say the things that they are claiming that she said, and then they just projected it onto her and they had her on camera. It is this kind of like casting.
So does she have a lawsuit against this?
Yes,
she does.
Sued them here. She sued Angel Studios. She sued
in a court in California,
in Utah.
In Utah, because
that's where they're based. And it was one of the things that we saw immediately. They're going to sue because this is so clear.
Okay.
In that.
So how did that turn out?
What's still going on? It just last week got the judge, the Utah judge, basically allowed it to proceed and said that, in his decision that you guys knowingly made false statements about her, or you did it with reckless disregard of the facts. And so now it's proceeding. And so this story is just going to get bigger and bigger because now they're going to have depositions. Now there's going to be discovery. You're going to really look at this case and see what I'm seeing. I mean, I'm talking, it's irrefutable. Watch our documentary. It's called Rescue Ruse. It's at redpilledamerica.com. You could also see it on any of the social media platforms. It's irrefutable. And these companies, this film get $250 million. Operation Underground Railroad has raised over $250 million. It's around $250 million since their launch. And this was the raid that launched their company.
So, I mean, child sex slavery, it's real, right? I mean, it's not like he invented a problem. That does happen. We all know about Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm sure there's 10 more just like him that nobody knows about that are working for the Mossad and the CIA. And so why would he invent problems? Why wouldn't he just go find the real ones?
I think that it's hard to find problems like that. And I think it's obviously out there and it's obviously happens. But I don't think that it happens on the level that this man tries to claim. I think that a perfect example. He says that the United States is the biggest kind of market for child sex slavery and all the assault and that kind of thing. Yet all of his operations are in foreign countries with corrupt governments. Why is that? Why are you working in these foreign countries? I'll tell you why. He goes to these countries, has a wad of cash, floats it around, gets some low-level street hustler coming up to him. All of these countries have prostitution, or at least the ones that we looked at all have prostitution. But pimping is illegal. But he gets these guys to kind of say, I can make $25,000 on this deal. It's $6,000 is our annual income. I could get $25,000 in a matter of a couple days by just being a middleman between an act that's legal here. And so they put on these sex parties, pay people to come. So people are getting paid $200 to come to this party. And then the police swoop in because pimping is illegal. And so if you can get some minors there that want that $200 for the attendance payment, then now you got a story. I mean, it's like you have a room and you're saying, here's a party in here, go in here. You open up the door, they all go in, and then you go around the other side and you find that they're in a jail, and I'm going to free you from jail. And you open up the jail and you let them out, and then you claim that you freed them, or you claim that you saved them. And the people that he's brought up from this Colombian island raid that became the movie, he's produced 2 people. And one was an adult, but he tries to claim that he was a kid when the raid happened. He was 18 years old. The other one was 17. He's tried to claim that he was 11. And the guy went there knowing that there was a sex party and that there wasn't going to be, that he wasn't going to have sex with anybody. He went there for the $200 payment. But this man has been going around for years saying that these were child sex slaves and that they needed saving and that they've been stuck in this system forever. And there's no evidence of that, at least in this Columbia raid case.
So, I mean, I'm familiar with the Jerry Sandusky story, and he, there are like kind of almost like mini conventions of these people that get together and do this sorts of thing, meaning child predators. And he ran in a homosexual ring of them, and so yeah, it doesn't make sense that he couldn't uncover this stuff inside the United States. I'll say that's for sure. And so, well,
and it's not easy. It's not easy to do that. I mean, if it was, the man's claimed to save like 6,000, women and children from being trafficked. Yet, all these kinds of accusations come out against him. He has a line of women now that worked with him that say that they did not witness a single child saved in these operations. These are people that worked closely with him. But when he's getting these attacks, if you'd saved 5,000 or 6,000 child slaves, don't you think you'd be able to fill a gymnasium of people that basically is saying, this man saved my life. This man, I'm this uncle of this girl that saved. I'm the aunt. I'm the mother. I'm the father. I think it wouldn't be too hard to fill a nice hall of people that you've saved. Those people aren't coming out.
I guess the two tells on this will be the court case in Utah,
yes,
and then to see if he sues you. So,
trust me, I think if I'm doing it right, I'm expecting something along those lines.
So we'll see
We'll see. Like I said, we've done an 8-part series on this, and he didn't come at us then. So we'll see what happens with this one.
Okay. Well,
and Tim, if you're watching this, because I know you're watching everything that I'm doing right now, aren't you tired? You have all these people coming at you right now. You know the truth. You're going through these court dockets. You're going through these court processes right now. The truth is going to come out. You have a Christian audience. They will forgive you if you come forward and say, I made a mistake, and repent. Your Christian audience will forgive you for that. I know that you're tired. I could see it. I've been watching hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos of you. I've seen the progression. Okay. It's time. Give these women their some peace. Give this woman that you've been trying to put into jail for 20 years. You tried to put her into jail for. Give them some peace and move on and fess up. That's my message to Tim.
The movie is Rescue Ruse, How Sound of Freedom Conned Christians. It's at redpilledamerica.com. It's also at Twitter and YouTube. Patrick Korelchi, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jimmy. I really appreciate it. You're one of the few that are willing to platform this discussion, so I really appreciate that.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
It sure does. Camera 4 right beside me. Almost ready. Oh, boom. Let's go, shall we? I mistyped coconut pilled yesterday. I left out an L in the word pilled. Terrible iPhone keypad. Now even I can feel unburdened by what has been. All right, Savage. Rumble. Oh, girl, you got it. She is sneaking around this room telling me what's happening. Jimmy, we're going to go to Rumble now. Do you feel good about that emotionally?
I guess so. Okay.
Okay. And just so you know, we have Premium Streamium today at 6 p.m.
6
That's
p.m.
our goal. That is our goal. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to Rumble. Make it happen, girls.
Yeah, she says she wants a real man. One who opens up the door, holds your hand and still smiles when he feels bad.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I
I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum. All day long I diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison, but they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators, and they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running the system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just MOVE babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers. I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, you know, making a quick buck, you know. I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, you know, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, you know, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. You know, how long are people going to sit back and beg, you know, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.